What's going on YouTube? It's Deej, back again with another video, and I'm back from my week off as I went to Italy. Thank you everyone for your patience and your grace as I did take a little bit of a hiatus, but today we're coming back and talking about my Week 8 NFL Power Rankings. Been around the channel, you know the gist of this. We're talking about who's moving up, who's moving down. If you're new to the channel, well, we're doing just that. Now I do have to iterate right off the front. I didn't do a Week 7 Power Rankings, so I kept notes of what moves I would have made, and then I made more adjustments after Week 8. So this is kind of 2 weeks worth of progress, so you may see some teams who took a loss this week that are moving up, but that's also accounting what they did in Week 6, So Week 6, Week 7, counting what they did there before we go into Week 8. So hopefully all that's clear. Let's jump right into it. Panthers coming off a bye, so I didn't move them. I still feel pretty confident in saying they're the worst team in the NFL. They're losing games. They're not keeping it competitive, and that's kind of where the difference comes in with them and the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals continue to lose competitive games like they did this week, 20-10 to Seattle. Just continue to stay in the fight. They're not going to win a whole lot of games with Josh Dobbs at QB, but I like that Jonathan Gannon's building that competitive spirit. So they stay at the bottom. Raiders are down 4 spots. Part of it's like, I don't know when Jimmy Garoppolo's coming back, and wow, what a privilege it was to watch Brian Hoyer try to play football. But yeah, I mean, this team's just not that great. They have some offensive skill players that are good, but some holes in the offensive line kind of limit the ceiling of that offense, and then the defense is just still, I think they're performing a little bit better, but ultimately they're just not getting the results to really show it, and this was a tougher week with Chicago. The defense kind of felt like they were making some headway. This week kind of felt like they backslid a little bit. Broncos are up a spot. Good for Denver getting a win. I still think they're not a very good team. Still think they should be sellers at the deadline. I plan on doing a trades I want to see video, and in that will be at least one Bronco and Justin Simmons, maybe one more with Cortland Sutton potentially in the mix, maybe Jerry Jeudy as well. Let me know if you think those guys get dealt at the deadline. They got to win. They're still a bad football team, so they're up to 29. Giants, Commanders also moving up a spot. Again, we're kind of accounting for 2 weeks worth of stuff. So Commanders just played the Giants. Giants just had Tyrod Taylor get a win against the Commanders. Maybe I could have flipped these two. All in all, I think the Commanders have been better this season, so I'll take the season as a whole into account here and say that Washington is a slightly better team. But the Giants are, I mean, they're just struggling, and, Tyrod Taylor, the one thing I can give him is he may not be great, but at least he's looking for Jalen Hyatt. He's bringing a little bit more explosiveness to that offense in turn. And then for the Commanders, man, they're just like this frustrating team where, like, 1 week they look pretty good, or I don't want to say pretty good, but 1 week they look good enough, and then the other week it's like, you only scored 7 points and lost to Tyrod Taylor. Like, what's going on here? So, I don't know. They're so inconsistent. I think Riverboat Ron's just got to be headed out the door after this offseason. Then we get to the New England Patriots. They're down a spot. This is one where it's like the Patriots are down a spot. They just had a huge win against, the Buffalo Bills. Yes, they did, but before that, I had basically charted them falling down to 29, I think it was, maybe 30. So they moved up a good bit between my Week 6 into Week 7 power rankings that obviously there was no video for because I was in Italy. But yeah, that was a huge win, and it was good to see that team turn out that performance. It was easily the best game we've seen from Mac Jones this season. Mix it around, got all the playmakers involved. Demario Douglas needs to continue to be... Honestly, Demario Douglas should be leading this team in targets. If you ask me, he's just their cleanest, most pure separator they have right now, and he makes the most happen when the ball's in his hands. So continue to target that guy. Devontae Parker's a nice change of pace, possession guy. I like that as a compliment. And then the defense, J.C. Jackson played pretty good this week. I'd rather see Christian Gonzalez out there, but with no Gonzalez, at least you got J.C. Jackson for pennies on the dollar for what he wanted when he was originally in New England, right? And he's playing pretty well. So, and it was good to see Bill Belichick get career win number 300, and I'm actually not mad that they gave him the extension. I think for a rebuild, he probably is the right guy to lead them moving forward. Hopefully he does a little bit better when it comes to his director of player, personnel role that he has on top of being the head coach. Bears are up 2 spots. This team's not an absolute dumpster fire. Matt Eberflus, since taking over as the play caller on the defensive side, has turned this defense around pretty substantially. Great to see Jalen Johnson back on the field. I loved him coming out of, the 2021 draft. And liked him as a prospect. When he's been on the field, he's been very good. Got a couple of picks this week. Really nice to see him in his return to the field and making some big plays there for Chicago. And the offense still isn't great. Obviously you're going to take a little bit of a step back with Tyson Bagent, but that being said, I don't think he ran the offense poorly at all. The D2 Shepard kid, he did what he had to do. Enough with his legs, enough through the air. Got the ball into the hands of DJ Moore a lot. Hit some throws over the middle of the field. It wasn't special, but it was enough to get the job done on the back of a defensive performance where they only gave up 6 points to Brian Hoyer. And, hey, that's good enough to move up 2 spots. Then we get on to the next set of teams. Got the Buccaneers down 4 places. That was a very winnable game. I don't think Atlanta played great, and the Buccaneers still lost. So that's kind of disappointing. A couple of late turnovers were basically the difference in that one. Certainly the defense is playing pretty well, but we're seeing the offensive regression start to set in. I think the team played better offensively at the beginning of the year than they actually were. And also that interior offensive line's a problem spot. And that kind of limits what they do in regards to the run game. And I'm more of a guy who wants to focus on the pass game anyways, but if the season were to end today, the Bucs would be the first team since the 90s with a sub 3 yards per carry average, which is bad. That's really bad. And it's that interior offensive line right now, which a lot of young guys there, hopefully they get better with time, but right now they're just not cutting it. The Falcons get that win. Younghoe Koo, another walk-off kick. This guy might end his career with like the most game-winning field goals under his belt. The man just feels like he's doing this week in and week out. It just shows that under the Arthur Smith era and even before that, the Falcons, when they get wins, they sweat them out, man. But yeah, no Bijan, which is a little weird, but Tyler Algier, Cordero Patterson, still a good enough 1-2 punch to carry the load there. It's almost like they probably shouldn't have drafted a running back in the top 8. Now, I know this Bijan's great, but this is the exact week where you kind of double down on it, on top of the fact Algier ran for 1,000 yards last year, and you're ignoring holes like number 2 corner, a difference maker on the edge. But we'll save that debate for the 2023 redraft analysis. Bijan's a great player. Don't know if that was necessarily the hole to fill for this Atlanta team, but they got the win. Raiders been super up and down. 2 weeks ago in the Power Rankings video, I didn't get to make. He kind of has this great game, and then he follows it up with a really bad one. So he's still up and down. Good to see Kyle Pitts make a couple of nice plays on the ball. The crazy one-handed, pseudo behind the back catch was cool. So I think the defense is really good. The offense is still figuring it out in Atlanta. Colts on State Place. That was a game that maybe they shouldn't have lost, but also I felt like Cleveland kind of spotted him 14 because of the Myles Garrett offsides. Defense kind of halts, thinking the play's dead, but obviously it's a free play, so they just kind of forfeited 14 points there. And I think Gardner Minshew, going back 2 weeks, it was a disastrous game against the Jags. If you give Gardner Minshew 8 starts, 7 of the 8 are going to be pretty good. It's just that one where it's like he forgets exactly what he's doing, man. It's disastrous, and that's what it was 2 weeks ago against the Jags. But ultimately, I think he's a steady hand to lead the offense moving forward. Great to see Josh Downs make some big plays. Him, Michael Pittman, I think that's a nice 1-2 punch. If you can find an upgrade over Alec Pierce, I like that wide receiver trio a lot. Defense is still really solid. Yeah, they give up 39, but there's a lot of weird, quirky plays. That game was just kind of the last thing I expected to be in general, 39-38. Did not expect that from Indianapolis and Cleveland going head-to-head this week. Saints are down 5 spots. Look, I mean, Derek Carr's just super inconsistent. He's just mad up and down. And, now you got Chris Olave with his reckless driving, thing on his radar. What does that mean? Defense is still, I think, generally playing pretty well, but it's just not enough to win games week in, week out. And ultimately, Derek Carr's just not efficient enough. And when you have back-to-back weeks where Alvin Kamara leads your team in catches, it's just showing that they're not drawing it up to get those wide receivers open. There's just not enough. Michael Thomas shouldn't leave a game with 3 catches where Alvin Kamara has 12. You got to be able to do more to win on the outside, and I think that really comes back to Pete Carmichael. Maybe if they made a change with with the play caller, this team would be a lot better. But I don't think Dennis Allen's going to make that decision midseason. So it's kind of a team where I feel like the pieces are there. It just doesn't feel like they're being given the right direction moving forward. But easy for me to say. I'm talking about this in my living room. The Titans, I'm going to have them stay put. They were on bye this week. Obviously, interested to see what happens with Ryan Tannehill this upcoming week. Is it going to be him? Is it going to be Malik Willis? Do we get to see Will Levis? It's not great. They're trading Kevin Byard. This is probably a team that's going to continue to sell at the deadline. DeAndre Hopkins apparently hasn't got a whole lot of trade value right now. Very interested to see what that leads into. But I can see them selling D-Hop. I can see them selling on D-Hen. And if they do that, this team's probably heading down the rankings. So they're coming off the bye. Really good run defense, and that's about the nicest thing I can say about this team. Because right now, everything else is a work in progress. Packers are down a spot. Yeah, it wasn't pretty this past week, and I feel like they had chances to get back in that game, and they're just they're close. They're almost there. And Jordan Love, it's just that little bit of a difference going from a Jordan Love type to obviously an Aaron Rodgers type, but even just someone a little bit better who's not Aaron Rodgers elite, right? And I'm also worried about this wide receiver room, right? We talked about it coming into this season where it's Watson's got upside, Dobbs is still young, and you had Musgrave. Musgrave looked good. Glad he was okay after that hit from Kareem Jackson, which, what the hell is that guy's MO this season? He's never been this dude, and now this veteran's trying to take off heads. Really weird there. Getting back on track, talking about the Packers. Yeah, I'm honestly a little worried that maybe those 2 young guys are just that. Instead of talking about them being young and promising, they're just young. And that's what they are. And they're still not dudes. They don't have a number 1 on that team. So I think Jaden Reed's a solid player. Love the touchdown that he got on that redirect. That was a really cool play. But otherwise, I feel like they're still missing that it factor. The 3rd and 8, we can go, get the chains. We can get the first down with our guy winning on the outside. Be a lot more fun to talk about the Green Bay team if they had Devontae Adams. Kind of wish they weren't forced to make that trade to the Raiders. Then we get to the Rams. They're up a spot. Yeah, they lost to the Steelers, and that's why I have them behind. But ultimately, this team is a really good 3-4 squad. Honestly, They probably should be like 4-3. And to me, if you were to double their record, they feel more 8-6 than they do 6-8. And that's kind of where I still feel generally optimistic about this team. The offensive line still has some headaches, sure. The secondary, especially at corner, some problem spots. We'll talk about that in a minute with Pittsburgh. But Matt Stafford, man, he can go on a burner any moment. Puka Nacua is legit. Cooper Kupp, obviously, he was the big focal point the Steelers wanted to limit because of that. Puka gets a big game. But Puka and Kupp, I mean, I think that's a great 1-2 punch. Plus, you got Higbee still there. They're doing enough on the ground while, kind of going to their, they're bringing Darrell Henderson back on the roster, and they're still getting enough production there. So, I still like this team generally overall. Right now, the stars are healthy, so they keep this team competitive. So right now, Team 18 feels about right moving forward for the Rams. Steelers beat Los Angeles. I'm not sure that the Steelers are better, and I wish I kind of thought about this before the matchup because I would have bet Steelers money line if I had. But the Steelers' strengths perfectly align with the Rams' weaknesses. The Rams' offensive line, and specifically if you look at Sean McVay and his tenure with the Rams, when the O-line's been bad, they've been bad. And Steelers' pass rush was just too much for the Rams to keep up with. Because of that, it caused a lot of issues there for the passing attack, specifically if they were targeting anybody other than Puka Nacua. And then on the other side, like Matt Canada's not a good play caller, but Deontay Johnson coming back, he's a great separator. And George Pickens can win one-on-ones. And the Rams cornerbacks are just bad. Like, they're just straight up bad. Like, Darian Kendrick, not good enough. Akello Witherspoon, former Steeler, they moved on from him for a reason. And those are matchups where I could see the Steelers winning on the outside. And ultimately, I think that was why they won. We got to see the Steelers playmakers win one-on-ones, and it's just because the Rams DBs are just that bad. So I felt like it was a perfect matchup for the Steelers to win. I'm not entirely sure, just based off what I see there and the talent that's actually there, that the Steelers are better. But they had the right matchup for them. All right, I got the Houston Texans up 16. Obviously, they were on bye this week, but I think this team is legit. I mean, I think they're better than the Steelers. I think they're better than the Rams. CJ Stroud's processing at an elite level. And the one thing that, it's interesting. He's almost playing as the opposite of what we thought he would be as a prospect, where it's like, okay, what's he look like as a processor? Not that we thought he was bad. We just didn't know because there's a level of security that comes with those wide receivers. Ryan Day's offense, being on one of the best rosters in college football, and everyone looking up to the talent that they have. But he was an elite passer. And this year, he's been elite enough. I mean, he's been accurate enough, but I feel like he could still get better there. So it feels like, man, his processing is awesome so far. And you're telling me he'll probably, with the rest of the season, be a more accurate passer? You're telling me he's going to get better this year? I think CJ Stroud, comfortably is already QB 15, 14, 13 in the league right now, which is awesome to say about a rookie. It's not often you get to say that. He's playing great, maximizing the talent that these wide receivers have, and the offensive line's playing pretty good. A lot of credit there to Bobby Slowick. That Shanahan scheme keeps the offensive line looking clean, and Jared Patterson stepping in as a 6th-round rookie, been a big part of that as well. And the defense right now playing hard under DeMeco Ryans, so I'm really excited to see what they look like coming off the bye, because I think they're only going to be that much better. Chargers are down five spots. They're just not that good. And this kills me to say. They were preseason 8, I think, for me, maybe 7. And even 2 weeks ago, they were 10. But look, Brandon Staley, as much as I liked the hire at the time, he's just not getting it done. And I just can't deal with, it's kind of like the Jack Del Rio situation with the Commanders. Like, how many years can we have the same rhetoric of this team should be better, but this team's underperforming? Why? And it's Brandon Staley. It's Jack Del Rio. You just got to find the head that's, kind of responsible for that and say, hey, we're not living up to expectations. We're going to move on. You would do the same thing in a work environment. Hey, sales are down. We're blaming you. We're going to bring in a different guy. Or we're going to promote someone else to be a new manager. And for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, that move just hasn't been made for the Commanders defense or Brandon Staley. But I think he's the reason they're underperforming. Herbert 2 weeks ago didn't play great, but they were in a shootout with the Chiefs, and then all of a sudden it kind of evaporated. Felt like that was weird. The 3rd and 4 inside zone from Kellen Moore, to me, it felt like it took a lot of the air out of the sails. So that was a really frustrating move for coming from someone who likes Kellen Moore a lot. That was a bewildering decision when you're playing Patrick Mahomes. No Mike Williams. Feels like they don't have that vertical threat. It was supposed to be Quentin Johnston. He's getting open. Not an elite level. Not like that. But he's getting open. They're just not looking his way, which is weird. So the Chargers are just off right now. They're just, it's not coming together. And because of that, they're down 5 spots. And to me, they're just kind of a middle of the pack team. They're all right. They're good enough. Herbert's solid. Herbert's really good, and that's what keeps this team in solid enough standing. Vikings are up 2 spots. Hey, man, I mean, with the Lions losing this week, the door's ajar. In the next 6 games they got, all very favorable matchups. So if they go 5-1 over the next 6 weeks, this team's got a chance to stay in the NFC North race. So great to see Jordan Addison to kind of step into that leading role in the offense. Did lead the game late, but if he can kind of fill the shoes for what they lost with Justin Jefferson, okay. And if they start winning games over this next 6-game, very favorable stretch of the schedule, Justin Jefferson's probably coming back once they hit the minimum because he's going to say, hey, we're competing. And then this team gets that much better. Brian Flores, like what he's doing defensively. They're not a great pass rush, but he's bringing enough pressure with his blitzes to where they're kind of getting there. And ultimately, the secondary, specifically Cam Bynum, loving how much they're using a 3-safety set, and Cam Bynum's a playmaker. So love to see him get the hands on the football that he did against the 49ers. This team's starting to piece together, starting to turn it around here. And a big game from Kirk Cousins goes a long way, too. Seahawks are down 4 spots. Look, I know they got a win, but this is more so like 2 weeks ago. They just had a little bit of fall. And plus, there's just kind of a natural reshuffling here going on in the rankings. So I still think Seattle's good. Honestly, I think Devin Witherspoon is probably the best slot corner of football. Him or Trent McDuffie right now. Maybe Brian Branch, too, there for the Lions. And I plan on making a video, a little teaser here for why I think the slot cornerback position is going to end up becoming the most valuable position in the secondary. So a little teaser there, but I got some good research going on and some talking points I want to hit. And ultimately, I think in 5 years, that's going to become the position to covet in the secondary. Witherspoon's been great, hard hitter. Love how he plays the game. Hopefully that, the 180-pound frame can withstand, but right now he's awesome against the run. He's great in coverage. This offense is doing just enough. Got to see a little bit more JSN this week, which was a really exciting note. Metcalf left the game, so we'll have to see his injury status, but I think it's a good football team. Would like to see them pull away from the Cardinals a little bit more, but Cardinals are scrappy. It's a division game. I understand. Jets are up 2 spots. Zach Wilson's still kind of the problem spot, but they're getting the ball into the hands of Garrett Wilson a little bit more, which is good, and that'll make Wilson look better. Zach Wilson, that is. Brees also making big plays. Still worried about that offensive line, but the defense is legit. It's the best defense in football. Them or Cleveland. Those two are the best 2 defenses in football, and Jets got to work at all 3 levels. The pass rush 2 weeks ago was just awesome, specifically at the edge spot. They were just kicking ass against the Eagles because they didn't have Lane Johnson. They were just teeing off against Jack Driscoll. So, this is a team that we know who they are. It just comes down to Zach Wilson if he can elevate his play. This team gets to the playoffs and we get to see Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be a lot of fun. Bengals are up 2 spots. They had the bye week this last week. But, 2 weeks ago felt like, okay, Joe Burrow finally looked fully healthy. Like, the arm strength was there. So, maybe it just took a little bit longer. And, hey, maybe he probably shouldn't have played week 1 and 2. But, now it feels like he's back to strength. That offense is clicking. You got Chase. You got Higgins fully healthy as well. Got a big game up ahead, though. That offensive line, this is going to be the good barometer for how good this offensive line is, how legit, how much of a difference does Orlando Brown Jr. make against the San Francisco 49ers this upcoming week. That's going to be a big game. We're going to see if Cincy's legit. Then we get the Lions up a spot. Yeah, they lost, I get it, to the Ravens, but they lost to a team that's going to be pretty high up in these rankings, and then 2 weeks ago they looked pretty good. And ultimately, they're a 5-2 team. They're still a really damn good squad. And I think they've got a chance to get that 6th win this upcoming week on Monday Night Football against the Raiders. So, like generally what this offense has looked like, Goff's playing like he's playing like an MVP caliber kind of guy. Like, he's putting up the numbers like there. And even in a loss, Amon-Ra St. Brown's filling the stat sheet. And I think once this team gets David Montgomery, just a different body type you have to handle and tackle, I think this offense gets back to where it was 2 weeks ago, which it was already pretty good with him gone, like except for this past Sunday. But I think adding Montgomery is just the power, that bruiser, that hammer type of body you have to handle and tackle. It just adds one more element to this offense that makes him that much more dynamic. So hopefully he's back soon. Browns are up 3 spots. Can we just talk about Myles Garrett? 2 sacks, a pass deflection, a blocked field goal coming out of a 3-point stance. If you didn't know now, Myles Garrett, he's not from Earth. I don't know what planet he's from, but he's an alien, certified. And I don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson, PJ Walker, but even with PJ Walker, he was trusting Amari Cooper to win on the sidelines. Jerome Ford's going to miss a couple weeks, but he got that big play early on. This offense is pieced together. It'd be preferred, though, that Deshaun Watson was in the mix and leading the way there. But honestly, pre him leaving the game with that, big, his head hitting the ground, that was a scary moment. Glad he cleared concussion protocol, but that's still something where you wanted to monitor that moving forward, because that was a tough play. That was tough to watch. But even before he left the game, he didn't look great. So I don't know, man. Still TBD there on Deshaun Watson. And then we get to the top 8. Bills are down 3 spots. They're 4-3 when they feel like they should be like 5-2, which, I know that's 1 game difference, but just double that. Do the Bills feel 8-6 or 10-4? They feel more 10-4, but they just have the weird losses where Allen's turnovers, it either costs them late or it screws them over early. And this one, it was screwing them over early, where they're down 10-0 to Bill Belichick, and that plays perfectly into his hands. He's going to let his defense take them the rest of the way. They're going to bleed clock, and they're going to ride on Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke Elliott. His mistakes early basically gave New England the game script they wanted and that they needed. So, if Allen can play turnover free, this team's great. It's just when those turnovers come, it's a slippery slope with the squad. But I still think they're generally a good team. I am secondary concern here. Trey White down for the year. Matt Milano down for the year. those are going to start to, like, you're going to feel that impact over the course of the season. And I wonder how much that diminishes how good this Bills defense can be. Then we get to the Jags up a spot. Still don't think they played a great offensive game, to be honest. It was efficient enough against New Orleans. And that's the word that encapsulates who the Jags offense has been. They're efficient. But I want to see them be explosive. I want to see the big plays. I want to see Calvin Ridley do more than one catch for 5 yards. And right now, I think Press Taylor, as the play caller, is just content with death by 1,000 cuts. Like, they're just content with, 5 yards here, 5 yards here, 4 yards there, 6 yards then. And I just don't know if that's sustainable over the course of the season. So I'm concerned. Also, this team needs more pass rush. I've been saying this over and over and over again. Luckily enough, they have a great corner tandem on the outside. Tyson Campbell and Darius Williams are playing fantastic right now. So that helps generate a little bit more pass rush. Also, this team's run defense has gone a long way and improving where they were a year ago. So they have made huge improvements while also still maintaining a strength on the outside at the cornerback position. They just got to get a little bit more of that pass rush, and I got to see a little bit more of that offense. But right now, they're in the top 7. They're winning despite, I think, some strength that I need for me to believe that they're a Super Bowl contender. The Cowboys were on bye, so I'm going to have them stay put at 6. Still generally like the Cowboys, so sorry, Dallas fans. Not much more to say there. I still generally like your squad. Dolphins are down a spot. Tough loss there to Philly. Before that, I basically moved them up. I think it was to 3. I think they were the number 3 team on my power rankings in the video that I didn't get to make because I was in Italy. But then they moved down because of the loss to the Eagles. And now the question is going to be, I need to see them win a game against a good team. Because right now, their wins are awesome, but they're all against bad teams. And then the chances they've had against good squads, they've been smoked. They lost by double digits to the Eagles. They lost by 20 plus to the Bills. Okay, I need to see doing it in a big game, right? So time will tell. Obviously, they still have the talent there, like Tua. The timing that he has in that offense is awesome. Tyreek, Jalen, they're all studs. And then you also get Jeff Wilson back, so Tim, A-Chain soon coming back. Mostert, And the defense also looked a little bit better this week. I think Jalen Phillips, once you saw him check into the game, he made some impact plays. Hopefully they get Xavier Howard back next week. Then Jalen Ramsey, hopefully, as well. If not next week, the week after. And it feels like this team was kind of missing one more corner because I'm sorry to kid or Kohu, he's in the NFL. I'm not. He's been rough this year. Like Stephon Diggs bodied him. A.J. Brown bodied him. They need some elite talent on the outside, and they just didn't have that with Howard out this week, and they obviously haven't had Ramsey yet this season. So when those guys are healthy, we get a good test about where that defense is really at. Ravens are up 3 spots. A lot of people are saying they're the second best team in the AFC, and right now with my power rankings, I'd say that's true. If we're talking about who I think has the best chance to win the Super Bowl out of the AFC, I don't know if I'm taking them at number 2 right now. They are a team that is prone to these hot starts, and then it kind of wavers off, and Lamar Jackson can kind of be Josh Allen-esque, where it's like 3-game stretch, he looks like an MVP. And then the next 3 games, it's like, what happened? So if Lamar legitimately is building off what he did this weekend, because look, the last 2 weeks, he's looked like an MVP. And right now, maybe he'd be my MVP. If he does that the rest of the season, yes, the Ravens are the number 2 team in the AFC, comfortably. We've just gotten too prone to the drop-off with this team, so I just need to see them avoid that before I'm fully buying in. But the defense looks really good. Mike McDonald in his bag right now is the DC. And then, like I said, Lamar's playing like an MVP. Maybe he would be my MVP. I do plan on doing mid-season awards maybe next week, hopefully next week. So maybe you'll get to see Lamar as my MVP. If not, he'll almost certainly be in that top 3. He's been great. Enough plays there from Zay Flowers and OBJ and Mark Andrews on National Tight End Day. 2 tuds. Love to see that. The Ravens are a really good squad. Just hoping they don't hit that drop-off point like they have the last 2, 3, 4 seasons. Then we get the 49ers down 2 spots, basically trading places with Kansas City over these 2 weeks since I've last done the power rankings. Yeah, 2 straight losses, a little weird. Not often we can see that with Kyle Shanahan. Some missed throws from Purdy against Cleveland. To me, that loss was more on him than the Minnesota loss was. Ultimately, that offense just really couldn't get clicking against the Vikings. Ton of credit to Minnesota in that defense. I think Brian Flores done a really good job there. And then a couple of fourth quarter picks. One that I think is on Purdy. One that's, kind of, I think, miscommunication with where he thought Jawan Jennings was coming out of his route. Maybe you blame that on Purdy. Maybe you blame him on Jennings. To me, it's kind of 50-50. But ultimately, 3 weeks ago, we were ready to crown him as the best quarterback that Shanahan's ever had. Myself included. I think he runs the offense more efficiently than anybody that Shanahan's had in San Francisco. But that being said, I also acknowledged he's not elite. I'm not taking him top 8 in the league. No. He's like QB 15, QB 16. He's just in the perfect offense, and he runs it perfectly. Last couple of weeks hasn't been true. So I'm really interested to see what goes on moving forward. Can they get Deebo Samuel back? What does that do? Also, you have to take into account they're playing without the best left tackle in football in Trent Williams last night. And that makes a huge impact for Purdy, but also the run game. So the Niners aren't 100% right now. Purdy's not playing at 100% with his actual on-field product. I don't know if he's injured, but his on-field has not been his best. But I'm not worried about the 49ers. I still think they're a Super Bowl contender. Back-to-back losses. And they have a tough one this week with Cincy. Maybe it becomes 3 straight. But even then, I'm not hitting the panic button. San Francisco's legit. Eagles, big win against Miami. That was a true, like, yeah, we're still one of the best teams in the NFL. Like, don't forget about it. And I still don't think they played the best game yet. Hurts came into the game a little banged up, and it kind of felt like it. But they're still just winning games in so many different ways. Sometimes it's on the ground. Sometimes it's Hurts with his legs. Sometimes it's, A.J. Brown just going up and bodying everyone. Sometimes it's the defense winning a close shootout, right? That's just the depth of that team, man. And they only got better this week with Kevin Byard coming into town. Like, I mean, Howie Roseman continues to do it. I got Kevin Byard on a great value. Makes sense for Tennessee, makes sense for Philadelphia. And now you got him, Reed Blankenship. Really like that safety tandem. And yeah, I still think the Eagles are legit. And once they get to playing, like, and they're clicking on full cylinders, this team's going to be really, really scary. But I got the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1. I mean, Pat Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league. Travis Kelce is one of the most dynamic, maybe the most unstoppable force, especially when Taylor Swift's in the stands. Maybe the most unstoppable pass catcher in the league right now. Him and Tyreek, kind of immediately come to mind. And also that defense, man. That defense legit. Like I said earlier, Trent McDuffie might be the best slot in the league. Him and Devin Witherspoon, Brian Branch, they're all kind of in that conversation. The pass rush is awesome. They basically just have Amenahue, Karlaftis, pushing the pocket back into a quarterback's lap, and then let Chris Jones kind of improvise, do what he wants, and create pressures that way. And the linebackers are playing really good. Drew Tranquill when he's gotten on the field. Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, they both have been really, really solid. L'Jarius Sneed, I mean, it's just a good team. I mean, they're good all the way across the board. And where it used to be, we talked about Kansas City, they would win with Patrick Mahomes. They're a lot closer to Philadelphia and being able to say we can win in a variety of ways than people, I think, want to give them credit for. And a lot of that's because of that defense. Spagnola's done an awesome job. And really, I think now he's got the pieces to have it fully come together where he wants to play man press, wants to let that 4-man rush up front win. And they've been doing a lot of that throughout this season. So that does it for my Week 8 NFL Power Rankings. Apologies for any stumbling there. I'm a little rusty getting back into this, but appreciate everyone's patience with me taking a week off, and hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Hit the like button if you did. Subscribe if you're new. But of course, most important thing, let me hear your thoughts. Who's too high? Who's too low? Who's your favorite team? Where do you think they should be in my Week 8 NFL Power Rankings? Love to hear your thoughts. Love to talk some ball with you down below in the comments section. That's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Teach, and I am signing off.